Hello and welcome to EV Review Ireland. My name is Derek Riley and today we are going to be talking about EV charging basics. It is day 20 of the 30-day challenge. As I've mentioned before, there's a playlist on the YouTube channel for EV Review Ireland if you're interested to find out other things that we've covered over the last 20 days. I didn't think I'd get this far into it, but we're nearly there, 2/3 of the way. Tonight, I am joined by Colin Whelan, and Colin is a huge EV advocate within the Irish scene. He was a great help to me when I started the EV Review Ireland YouTube channel. He is just after coming back from a meetup that I wasn't able to attend at Junction 14, Ireland's largest EV charging hub. Colin, how are you?
How are you, Derek?
How did today go? Not that the sunburn won't tell me, but what else happened today?
Well, we were looking all week at the weather reports and we were wondering what was going to happen. And all week it was saying rain, rain, rain. Lovely week, and then Sunday it's going to rain. So we all had our Childs of Prague out. We were saying our prayers, and my goodness, were prayers answered this morning because the weather was just fantastic. So I think a few of us took advantage of Father's Day visits around the country, and then we met up in Monasterevin at Junction 14 on the M7, and it was absolutely brilliant. And the turnout was brilliant. And as you can see, I don't know if you can notice, but I'm a bit cherry tomatoey this evening, and I'm looking here at a picture of Paul Kelly, and Paul looks absolutely sun-kissed. God bless you.
Sun-kissed is a lovely way of putting it, Colin. And Paul is a redhead anyway, so he needs to watch himself every day of the year. But today now would have been a bit of a challenge.
Yeah, it was a bit of a surprise now, but it was great. It was great to see, in fairness to ESB, it was great to see a multi-unit hub and units that also can charge more than one car. Well, we'll say they will be able to charge more than one car once they're up and running, because they are at the moment in kind of a beta testing mode, and ESB did warn us about that. So I did let ESB eCars know that we would be there today as a group, and they said, great guys, we're teething and any feedback would be very useful. So the great news is that one of these new units, which we'll be looking at later on in my presentation, actually has two DC cables that can be used at the same time. But today we could only get one or the other working on two different units. So there is the potential for up to 8 cars charging at one time there. Brilliant. When all is going well. So we're looking forward to that. And the best of luck. Congratulations to ESB for setting it up.
And we're looking forward to seeing more of them around the country. It wouldn't be the sorry. I need to clarify. It isn't the largest charging hub in Ireland, because the Tesla owners will be like, Derek, what are you talking about? We have large charging hubs all over the place. So this is the largest multi-vehicle charging hub in Ireland. But today, Colin, you had a phenomenal variety of cars, but there were a couple of leading the pack manufacturers there.
Yeah, there were an awful lot of Teslas. So we definitely were Tesla overrun, but I think it's proof of the pudding in the strength of the Tesla that, and what I found interesting as well, I started doing EV meetups about 3.5 years ago now, and when there's a lot of the guys who were there today who were previously in Leafs, or they were in BMW i3s or in e-Golfs, and they've gone to Model 3s. So the Model 3 is definitely its popularity, especially among those who have already, they're bought in, they understand, they've been bitten by the EV bug. It's really easy for them to transition from a Leaf or something like that to a Model 3. And I think some of them probably have said, yeah, this is definitely the right car. I don't mind maybe stretching a little bit to get this because it's the right car, and it can handle, especially here in Ireland, it can handle, range anxiety isn't an issue anymore. And then with charging stations like we saw today open, plus the wonderful Tesla supercharging hub, which is also expanding because there's more Tesla supercharger sites coming in Ireland this year. Really, if you have a Tesla, you are spoiled. I'll admit that.
We have our first comment coming in from Blake Boland. He was disappointed not to be able to join it today at Junction 14. Glad to hear it went well. And there'll be more of those, Colin, if you have your way. And I'm sure other associations and groups will have meetups once we start to see restrictions getting even less and less. Is that right?
Yeah, I'd agree. I think everyone, in fairness to everyone today, I think whether it was going to rain or not, I think we would have had the same numbers. I think everyone is cracking up and dying to get out again. And see, there was some other lovely cars there as well today. There was a beautiful old Corvette Stingray convertible there that somebody brought out, and it was, I know it's the other side of the camp, but it was a beautiful car.
We'll have to
So
get more conversions along to these meetups, Colin. That's
that's
what we're
it.
going to have to get.
That's it. We'll have to
For
get on to
everybody
Moggy
that
in Wales.
for everybody who joined tonight, you've joined either to listen to myself, Connell, or Connell waffle on, but it's mainly to do with EV charging basics. So Colin ran this workshop about 2 months ago and got a great reaction to it. And when I was looking for content for the 30-day challenge, I reached out to Colin, and he's been kind enough to run through the presentation. It will be recorded, so if you have to scoot off, don't worry, it'll be here live on the channel if you ever want to revert back to it. And we have a presentation, and as Colin is going to mention, if you've got any questions, he'll probably answer them throughout. So hold them till the end. But what I'll do is we'll put the presentation up on the screen here now. Colin, is there anything else you want to say before you jump into that presentation?
No, I think I'll introduce myself and explain to everyone. As Derek said, what we find with this, have you got it up now, Derek?
Yeah, she's up and she's going to be full screen now.
Okay, so good evening, everyone, and thanks very much to Derek for having me, and delighted to help if I can. We're just going to talk about EV basics because we realize that there's an awful lot of new EV users out there, as well as people considering buying an EV. And the big thing that they always get concerned about is, how am I going to charge my car? Hence, we've put together this little, I've put together this little presentation. Now, what I always say when I start is, if you have a notepad and a piece of paper there, have it by your side and write down any questions that you might have. You may find, and I hope you'll find, that as I go through the presentation, I will answer your questions. But of course, if you do have any questions, we will have a Q&A at the end. So don't worry, don't panic. We'll plow through this, not stop and start, and then we'll have questions at the end. Now, the other thing I'd just like to say is this is done by me personally. I'm not affiliated with any of the groups. Yes, I am a Tesla owner, and I'm a member of the Tesla Owners Group. Yes, I am a member of the EV Owners Association group. They're both great groups, and I'm grateful to be members of them, but this is nothing to do with them, not affiliated with them. It's just me. So if anybody wants to give out about anything, give out to me. It also means that I can, to some extent, I can stand up for myself and say what I think without being given out to by a group leader or something like that. But that's what this is. So me personally, my name is Colin Whelan, and I'm a co-founder of company Omnisys. And the first question most people ask me is, what is Omnisys and what do you do? Well, we're an IT company. We're going now 20 years last week. And we basically, we are early adopters to EVs in Ireland, and we've converted our whole fleet over to EVs. So that's who Omnisys are. So the purpose of this evening's presentation, as I said, there's lots of different chargers and lots of different things about charging people get confused about. Well, it's to help drivers, new drivers, and those considering change to understand the charging options, and also to dispel some of the myths. And it's not a sales event. So we're not going to ask you to pay for anything. We're not trying to sell any product. There isn't anything we're trying to put in front of any other. So by all means, just relax and enjoy it. And as we go along, hopefully we'll answer some questions. Now, the first thing I like to do as well as say is I'm going to not try and fall into the trap of using acronyms. I'm going to explain some of the ones that you will see and quite common, just to help you understand things. So kilowatt, KW stands for kilowatt. And kilowatt is a unit of power. And you normally speak about kilowatts when you're talking about the motor in a car, or you're talking about the charger. You know, the power of a charger or the power of a motor in an electric car. But a kilowatt is not to be confused with a kilowatt hour, kWh. A kilowatt hour is a unit of capacity. And this you talk about in relation to a battery. So in the same way you would talk about a fuel tank having a number of gallons or liters, when you talk about a battery, you talk about its kilowatt hour size. How many kilowatt hours does your battery have? That's your battery size, not to be confused with kilowatts, okay? And also, don't mix them up, okay? So factors that determine charging speed. Now, this is something very important that it's clear from some of the posts we're seeing from new users on some of the EV owners, Facebook and Instagram groups and so on, that new owners don't understand that there are many variables that can determine your car's charging speed. The first one, obviously, is your car's capabilities. different cars are have different charging speeds available to them, the cars themselves, and that's determined by the charger that is inbuilt by the manufacturer in your car. The charger type and speed, so the unit that you're going to plug into, there's different types of unit and there's different speeds of unit. That's obviously going to determine the charge and speed that you're going to get. So there's different types of chargers. Here's a sample of what some of them look like, but we'll be talking about those in a moment. The cables can play a big part in the play as well. So I at one stage was given out to very good charger supplier who supplied our office EasyGo because I wanted a 22 kilowatt charger, but I wasn't getting 22 kilowatts out of it. And I was given out to them and said, why isn't this giving us 22 kilowatts? So I'll come back to that story again. It wasn't their fault at all. It was down to me and having the wrong cable. And then your battery state, percentage, charge, and temperature. So how old or how new or how good a condition is your battery in? What percentage of charge is it when you are looking for a charge? Is it, half charge, so you're only looking to charge half of it? Is it almost empty, or is it nearly full? All of these things can affect charging speed, as well as temperature. If your battery is warm, if your battery is cold, these things can affect charging as well. But what I would say at this outset is just to say to you, don't worry about it. I don't worry about it. As I go about my business and I need to charge my car, I don't worry about any of these things. You get to know your car, you just plug it in and it charges. So we'll come to some of these points. Okay, different cars can charge at different speeds. So this is the capabilities we were talking about. So some of the most common cars, and maybe the first generation EVs like the Leaf, like here you see the BMW i3, the Kona, first generation Kona. Some of these cars will only charge at 7 kilowatts. Okay, that's the maximum that they will get at a public street charger, AC charger. And then they will only charge at 50 kilowatts at a DC charger. So there's AC and DC, which we're going to cover at a moment. But that's kind of the entry level speeds. Then you've got a middle of the road speeds like this here. This is my own car. This is a Tesla Model 3, first generation. And my car can handle up to 11 kilowatts on AC and about 150 kilowatts on DC. And then you've got the top of the range guys. You've got the things like the lovely new Audi e-tron GT, the Porsche Taycan, some of the other Audis, and some of the new cars that are coming on stream. Some of those can charge up to 350 kilowatts and so on. So there's lots of different speeds, but it's also to do with the capability of your car. But first, we need to talk about these boys. Okay. So some of you will know who these guys are. Some of you, I'm hoping, or if Byron is out there, I know Byron will know who these boys are. But here we have AC/DC. So why are we talking about AC/DC? Well, basically, there's two different types of charging when you're charging your electric car, AC and DC. AC, we'll talk about first. AC, when we talk about it, tends to be classed as slower charging. So the very slowest charge you can get in the car is what some people will refer to as the granny cable. So this is the 3-pin plug that you plug into an ordinary socket in your house. Every electric car should come with a granny cable. You can plug it into your car. You don't use an extension lead. You plug it directly into a socket, and preferably a socket that has its own breaker. So if you're going to find that you're going to be using the 3-pin socket a lot, you should think about safety and get a qualified electrician to look at what you're doing and make sure that the socket that you're plugging it into is going to be rated for the big draw that it's going to be needed to charge a car. But the speed of this tends to be about 2.5 to 3 kilowatts. So kilowatts is the speed for a 3-pin plug. Okay? And that can take a long time to charge a car depending on your battery size. Next, what's classed as a fast charger is one that would be a dedicated charger on the side of your house with a dedicated socket for an electric car charging cable, which some of you who have bought a car will recognize. These tend to be from 7 to 22 kilowatts. Now, most people in their homes who have fitted a dedicated car charger would have a 7 kilowatt or maybe 3.5 kilowatt. Not many people would have 22 kilowatt because 22 kilowatts tends to be only available to people with 3-phase power. And there are other limitations on your house about how fast your charger can be and whether or not you have electric showers, electric cookers. But again, these are things that your qualified EV charger installer will be able to advise you at. So sometimes you might say, well, look, I want to have a 22 kilowatt charger. You may not be able to have one. You could have all the money in the world. It won't make any difference because your house, your fuse board, your feed to the house from ESB may not be able to support it. So most people would have 3.5 or 7 kilowatt, but that's fine because it's twice as fast as the 3-pin plug. And remember, most times you're charging your car when you're asleep at night. Excuse me. Then we move up to Rapid, and Rapid, it tends to be classed as above 43 kilowatts, and these are only compatible with very certain EVs, such as some Renault Zoes, and then the higher end cars we spoke about earlier, some of the Teslas, some of the higher end Porsches and Audis and so forth. But we can get more information on those later on. So now I'm going to talk about the ordinary mortal like yourself and myself driving your ordinary electric vehicle and talking about AC charging. So AC charging is what you do at home. You only would ever charge AC at home. And up to home is 7 kilowatts. And as I said earlier, you do your 7 kilowatt AC charging while you sleep. You plug it in, you charge your car while you're sleeping. So you don't tend to worry about how long it's going to take. And also, the first question everyone asks me or asks other EV drivers when they're thinking about getting an electric car is, how long does it take to charge from nothing to 100%? Because that's the way they think, because that's what you do with petrol and diesel. When you go to a petrol station, why do you fill the car up? You fill the car up because you can't get petrol or diesel anywhere else. You're here now, so you may as well fill it up. It's different with an electric car because if you have your own driveway, and that's the first question I ask everyone, have you got your own driveway? Somebody says, yes, I've got my own driveway. There's no reason, in my opinion, why they can't have an electric car. And then they've no worries about charging because when they're asleep in bed, their car is charging to whatever 80, 90%, whatever you need to charge it to. And it could be every night or every other night. I personally charge my car maybe twice a week because I don't need all the range that it has. So I don't charge it every night. And we have 2 electric cars, but we only have 1 charger because we don't need any more. It's plenty. Nothing to worry about. On the street, then, you'll sometimes see AC chargers as well. So the public infrastructure has both AC and DC. AC tends to be on the street, at work, or in a car park. And they're called destination chargers because you're tending to, it's the way it's meant to work is you've arrived there and you're going to be there for a number of hours. So you plug in your car and charge, either while you're at work or you're shopping or you're in the cinema or you're in the gym. You plug it in and your car is charging. You don't have to leave it there to get to 100%. You're just getting the charge because you can. Now, this is where if somebody comes to me and says, I love electric cars, I'd want an electric car, I want to buy an electric car. Do you have your own driveway? No, I don't. Okay. Do you go to the same place of work every day in your car? And do you have a parking space where you might be able to avail of charging? If they say no to those 2 questions, it's not that it's impossible for them to own an electric car, but they are going to have to put up with some discomfort, let's say, because they're going to have to work into their life a new habit of fueling their car, charging their car, and they're going to be relying on public infrastructure. But the first infrastructure will very likely be street charging AC network. And the speeds of the AC networks for street charging usually goes up to 22 kilowatts. Okay. Now, how can you recognize an AC charger? Well, the most common thing about an AC charger is you always have to have your own cable. So here's an EasyGo charger. Great guys at EasyGo have helped Lidl roll out their charging infrastructure around the country. And EasyGo are actually one of Omnisys's partners, and we're proud to support them. But what you can see here is you can see that there's a black cable on the left and a yellow cable on the right. Both of these drivers of these cars have brought those cables with them. This unit, this pedestal unit, does not contain an attached cable. And that's another way you'll know an AC charger. So if you were to drive into your local town where they have a public AC charger, you'll have to get your cable out of the boot. If you've not got your cable in the boot, you're not going to be able to get a charge from a pedestal unit like this. So just be aware of that. You bring your own cable. Okay? Here we have one of the latest ESB 22 kilowatt chargers. These are currently being rolled out across the country. The previous version units were green in color with a slightly different design. So if you see one of the green ones around the country, they're still working, most of them. So feel free to use them, but you'll notice they don't have any cables built in. That's the first thing you notice about them. You have to have your own cable. Now let's talk about the other one, which is the one that most people are going to be most concerned about, and this is DC charging. And this is for when you have to do longer journeys. So this is when you're going on your holidays, you're going down the country, you have to go on an extended journey. You're going to be relying possibly on a DC charger. So the difference with a DC charger is there's no need for cables. DC chargers have cables plugged into them, just like you would see a petrol filler. So it's got its own hose, if you like. And in some cases, DC chargers will have two different types because different cars have different types of connectors, but that's getting easier too. And I'll go through those in a moment. The other thing about DC is that in some cases, they'll have three cables, but this older style of DC charger, both the EasyGo one you see here on the left and the ESB one you see on the right, they can only charge one car at a time, one car on DC at a time. They cannot charge more than one car. So even though you see this has three cables and that one has two cables, only one car can charge at a time. Now, these two units that you're looking at are 50 kilowatt units. So remember, the DC unit, the AC unit we spoke about a moment ago back here, which you brought your own cable, was 22 kilowatts. These DC units are 50 kilowatts. And I've said here up to 350 kilowatts coming soon. Well, actually, they've arrived. They've arrived in the form of Ionity. And Ionity are a consortium that's been supported by the big manufacturers other than Tesla. So you've got BMW, Porsche, VW, Mercedes, Audi, Hyundai, because all of these guys use this type of connector that you see that man holding on the left. That's called a CCS connector, which I'll come to in a moment. So the CCS is a connector for DC charging on the Ionity network. And Ionity also were the first to open multi-unit sites in Ireland where there was more than one charger. Ionity have 4 chargers in some sites. And in fact, in Kill, they've got 4 chargers on the southbound lane and 4 chargers on the northbound lane on the road coming in from Naas to Dublin at Kill. So there's 4 either side. There's 2 beside me here in Gormanstown at City North Complex. They have 4 in Gorey, 4 in Athlone, and 4 in Cashel. So the 4 corners, if you like, of the country, except for Donegal, which we'll come back to, Ionity are covering, as well as EasyGo. Now, the great thing about EasyGo is EasyGo are our homegrown Irish guys. EasyGo are an Irish company. They're rolling out their network, working hard to give us unified access with their fob to all the networks. So if you have an EasyGo fob, it'll start you going on an Ionity. It'll start you going as well later on ESB units as well. But this here was the first Irish multi-unit site, and this is Kinnegad Plaza. And here's 2 EasyGo 50 kilowatt units. These units here from Ionity are 350 kilowatt. However, there's very few cars can take advantage of that speed yet. So it's not, they don't have a big advantage over EasyGo at the moment. So here you'd see the EasyGo is charging a Nissan Leaf. This is our Nissan Leaf, and the Nissan Leaf has a different type of connector. So I want to talk to you about the different connectors. So here you see the ESB old style triple head unit. And there's 3 different types of connector. The CCS is what's fitted to most new electric cars for DC charging. So the Tesla Model 3 has it, the BMWs have it, the Audis have it, the Hyundais have it, the Kias have it, the new Renault Zoe 50 optionally has it. Somebody's screaming at the screen there now, ones I'm forgetting. The new Porsches have it. The new Ford Mach-E will have it. The new Skoda Enyaq will have it. The new VW ID4 has it. So this is the main European standard is CCS. The one you see on the left is CHAdeMO. And CHAdeMO is a Japanese standard that really was exclusively Nissan Leaf use and some Mitsubishi Outlander plug-in hybrids. I'm not going to talk about plug-in hybrids on DC. That's a whole subject that'll cause a row. So I'm going to step away from the mic on this one. We'll talk about that another day. Okay. I have opinions about that, and I'll tell you no more. But CHAdeMO is a Japanese standard that really now is becoming less and less common. But of course, there is a large volume of existing and new Leaf owners who need CHAdeMO. I believe Nissan are going to move to CCS because we know CCS is going to be in the new Nissan Ariya that's coming out later this year. So if they're putting it in their Nissan Ariya, I'm fairly sure that the next generation Leaf will have CCS as well. So then there's only the older generation Leafs or people who still have Leafs who need DC charging will be looking for CHAdeMOs. And then the final connector that you see on this unit, which you're going to see less and less of as well, is an AC43. And this really was only of benefit for rapid charging at full speed to both Zoe, certain Renault Zoe, and certain Tesla drivers. But that one again, it's an AC standard. There's less and less of those going to be in use. So now on DC, as I said, on this particular unit, only one car can be charged at a time. So if you're a new EV driver, you're pulling up to one of these units in your new EV and somebody's already plugged in, and Nissan Leaf's already plugged into a CHAdeMO Leaf, you're not going to be able to get any charge on the CCS. Nothing you can do. Okay, here's what the new DC units are starting to look like. These are the ones that ESB are upgrading this older style one to look like this one. And you'll see that they've dropped the AC43 and they just have the CHAdeMO and CCS. So they're catering for a Leaf and another EV, but only one can charge at the same time. Only one can charge at a time on these units. CCS and CHAdeMO. But the good news is, here's the units that we were at today in Monasterevin in Kildare on junction 14 of the M7. The 3 units that you see on the left are the newer units. The one on the right is the older triple head we've just discussed. But the newer units here on the left, the 3 standalone units, which look like this, they actually have 2 DC connectors that can charge simultaneously. Well, actually, what I should say is they will charge simultaneously because they're in beta testing at the moment. Today, we couldn't get 2 of them working on 2 cars simultaneously, but we did get them working on 1 car. So when these are sorted and ESB are finished their testing, both of these cables will be working so that we have the potential here to charge up to 8 cars at one time. Now, what you have here is the first 2 units have 2 CCSs, and then the third unit, the middle one there, has a CCS and a CHAdeMO, and then the older unit at the end has a CCS and a CHAdeMO. So we've 4 CCSs between the first 2, 2 CCSs on the last 2, and 2 CHAdeMOs on the last 2. So that's great news. It really is good news, and we welcome this coming, and we want to see more of these across the country. So that's what the new DC unit looks like. Okay, so this is the latest and greatest from ESB. One side can support 200 kilowatts, and the other side will support 350 kilowatts in very special circumstances if you've got the right car. So normally it wouldn't matter which side you plug into, as long as you're getting your charge, you'll be happy. Excuse me. You just need to remember when charging a car, it's all about changing your mindset. You have to change the way you think because we're not charging cars to 100%. DC charging on the motorway, when you go to somewhere like this, You're meant to go here just to get a little top up to get you to your destination. These are not designed or meant to charge to 100% your car. Because first of all, it's not good for your car to be regularly charged to 100% of DC. And also, your charging speed drops off. And for new users, a lot of them don't realize that. So let's talk about that. To charge your car to 100%, the charging speed drops off after 80 on DC. So that's why when you see manufacturers quoting, it'll take you 20 minutes or 15 minutes to get to 80%, what they mean is if you pulled up with 20% in your battery, because nobody's going to pull up empty. You couldn't pull up empty because your car would be dead and you wouldn't be there. So most people would pull up to a charger with a minimum of maybe 20, 15%. To get up to 80%, depending on your car, can take anywhere from 20 to 40 minutes. Now, what ESB have introduced is a 40-minute overstay fee. So they're trying to say to drivers, hey, please don't stay beyond 40 minutes, because after that 40 minutes, the speed at which you're charging your car has drastically reduced. So now you're just being a nuisance to somebody else behind you who's waiting to charge. Don't charge your car to 100%. Once your car slows down in charging at about 70, 80%, get off the charger, carry on your journey, and let the other person coming behind you use the charger. This is why plug-in hybrids with DC capabilities using rapid chargers is such a controversy, because they don't need the charge. They can get petrol or diesel. And the argument the plug-in hybrid driver will often give you is, well, I want a hybrid because I don't want to be waiting to charge. Well, then why do you want to hog up a charger when somebody else needs it? A lot of them would just want to have a go, so they'll give the charger a go. That's not fair to those who need it to continue their journey. Okay, so keep that in mind and think about etiquette. You're not going to 100%. You're just looking to get enough to get you home or to your destination. Okay, so that's kind of a little graphic there just to show you that the first part of the battery is where you fast charge rapidly. That's how you're going to get the fastest charge into your battery, up to 80%. The last 20% is just a trickle. So when you get to 80, get off the charger, please. So where are there DC chargers? Well, here was a snapshot I took a few months ago of the ESB DC charger network. Gives you an idea. And these are growing all the time. ESB cars, mostly single points, but changing. So this is what we were celebrating today, is a site that has 4 chargers. Because what used to be is that on each site there'd only be 1 charger. So you'd 1 point of failure, single point of failure, and you could have queuing. Because if somebody is charging, they're probably going to be there for half an hour. You're going to have to wait in half an hour. And if there's somebody else before you in the queue, you might be waiting an hour. But we're seeing less and less of that now, because the newer cars are coming out with bigger batteries. Most people don't need to, they're not going to wait to use DC charging. Now, when DC charging was free, it was a problem. But now that you have to pay to use DC charging, the spongers, if you like, aren't bothering. They're carrying on their journey. They're charging home where they can get it as cheap as possible. And there was a single point of failure, but that's getting better. EasyGo network. So EasyGo, as I said, we're the first Irish owner multi-unit site in the country in Kinnegad. But EasyGo also are rolling out their own rapid network. So they've got some up in Monaghan, they've got some in Mullingar, Kinnegad, Athy, and more to come. They've introduced some others since this graphic. So EasyGo, forgive me, I know that you've got some. Well, I need to update this map. So if you go onto the EasyGo website or download the EasyGo app, it'll show you their other DC chargers around the country, as well as the ESB and Ionity chargers as well. They'll show you everything. So the EasyGo app, I'd highly recommend you get. EasyGo, what's also great about them and why I use them is they do fleet accounts. So when you start moving your cars to EVs in your business, it's a great and easy way to manage your charging for your staff. And as I said, the one EasyGo fob will open nearly all the chargers now, and they're working towards making that 100% all the chargers. So thanks to EasyGo for great work done. And as I say, we always want to support our own. So EasyGo are the Irish guys. They're independent. And of course, they're one of our customers. So DC, who else? Well, there's Ionity, which we spoke about as well. And Ionity are the big European player coming in, supported by the major manufacturers. with state-of-the-art latest 350 kilowatt chargers. So as you can see there, there's 2 in Gormanstown City North, 4 in Athlone, 4 in Cashel, 4 in Gorey, and 8 at Kill. 4 one side and 4 the other side. So, and there's more to come there from them as well. So Ionity, great thing about them is multi-units per site. There's no queuing because it's multi-units. Expensive compared to home, but still cheaper than diesel. And it's not a single point of failure. So some people give out about Ionity because it is so expensive. And it is. It's a premium product that you have to pay to use, but you're guaranteed to get a charge. If you pull up an Ionity charger, you're less likely to see it blocked. You're less likely to see queuing. And if you just need to get a little bit of charge to get you somewhere, you're very likely going to be able to get that without any hassle. So that's Ionity. This here is in Cashel when they opened a couple of years ago. So AC/DC. AC up to 7 kilowatts and 22 kilowatts. DC 50 to 350. Tesla up to 11 kilowatts it'll handle, and up to 150 kilowatts DC. That's my Model 3. And some of these other cars, as we spoke about, can handle up to 350 kilowatts on DC and 22 on AC. So you see, the premium products tend to have the higher level of charging. But in Ireland, you very seldom need this level of charging. So there are some of the choices that we spoke about. You can look up more of those details there on that link from, I got this one from me, the Fenergy. Here's like some of the range of the cars we're talking about now. And like, if you look at even there, in the middle there, the Kona electric. So that's 258 miles, which is about 400 kilometers. Like 400 kilometers on the island of Ireland gets you from anywhere to anywhere. You have nothing to worry about. And who's going to come back in the same day? Normally, not most people. You're going to rest. You're going to maybe overnight. You're certainly going to have to stop to have a meal and use the loo. And in that time, you could DC charge and add another 150 kilometers back in again to get you where you need to go. Okay? What do you drive on a daily basis? And most people would fit into that. There's the Kona at 415, I think I've noted there. So you've got some great apps out there that help as well. ZapMap is a good app. It shows you, loads of different chargers, not tied to any particular network or provider. Great filters for taking out slow chargers and just showing you the fast ones. And you can even then say, I only want to look at the 350 or I only want to look at the 150. Great for filtering, and it works across Europe. And finally, what's wrong with this photo? So this is very important, especially for our new EV owners. Okay, what is wrong with this photo? Well, what's wrong with this photo is the cars are not charging. Now, what some people have said is, oh yeah, well, that's the unit install organ is broken, and sure, if it's not working, that may be the case. But for this purpose in this photograph, you don't charge in a slot if you're not, you don't park in an EV charging slot and not charge. It's not a parking spot for electric cars, it's a charging spot. And as you can see the sign there behind it says electric vehicle charging only. So when somebody pulls up in their self-charging Toyota hybrid, no, it's not an electric car, it's not full electric. You can't charge, you can't park it here. But likewise, somebody pulls up in a Nissan Leaf or a Tesla or whatever and decide not to plug in, that's a no-no. You're blocking somebody from using the charger. So just remember that, please. It says it here clearly on the signage, electric vehicle charging only. And the other thing, it also means when your car is charged, move it. So once you've got your charge, get out of the space so somebody else can charge. This is a great app that a lot of the guys use, and it's helped a lot of people over the years. It's called Need to Charge. And basically, it's a free app to download, and you register. And when you've got Need to Charge, what it does is it's a way of communicating with the driver of a car without having to give away your confidential information like your phone number or personal details. And when you're on the app, or when you're a member of the app, what will happen is you'll get a message to say somebody is looking to charge where you're plugged in. Are you finished? Can you let them know? And you can send them a message through this app to say, oh yeah, I'll be back in 15 minutes, or I'll be back in whenever. So at least you know. So rather than waiting, wondering is a driver going to come back, if they're on need to charge, you get an idea of when they're going to return. Other thing we need to remember is to look after the equipment. So there's nothing more frustrating when you arrive at a charger and you see equipment either damaged or lying on the ground. Just pick it up, put it back in the holster, make sure it's okay. Leave it as you would like to find it. I suppose that's the simplest rule. That's what my mammy used to say. Leave it as you would like to find it, and then everyone will benefit. Charge up and move on, and that's the etiquette to plugging in. So, as I said, I'm not going to talk about hybrids tonight, but you'll notice that most hybrids, and I put this photo here as an example, most hybrids don't have a DC socket. So they don't have the ability to rapid charge on the DC motorway network, except for a couple of the Mercedes and the Mitsubishi Outlander plug-in hybrid. So just be aware that if you do drive a hybrid, and especially a hybrid that can DC charge, please leave the DC charging network free for those who essentially need it. We all need to get home. And finally, I just want to thank a few of the guys and the resources that we were talking about earlier on. The Irish EV Owners Association have a new logo. I'm sorry I forgot to update that one. I'm just noticing that now. Fully Charged is a great podcast and YouTube channel that I watch. Electrek is another good one as well. And then we also have, that's the new Irish EV Owners Association Facebook page and logo. Derek runs the EV Owners Club, and then Derek is the channel that we're on tonight is great. And Derek, fair play to you, biting off a video every day for 30 days. You're a brave man, but I'm glad to be able to help. And now we're on to the question time. So over to you, Derek.
Thanks, Colin. I was on mute there after a year and a half of working from home. You think I'd know when their mute button was, but that was excellent. Thank you so much. We've got a lot of comments coming in, and we've got great numbers viewing as well. What I'll do is I'll make us bigger screen, Colin, and it's good to get you back. So we have Charlotte Murray. I know Charlotte down in Mayo saying great content as always, Derek, which is great. We have Paddy coming on saying this is excellent while you were doing the presentation. Blake came back on then and he was saying it's great to hear Colin talk about the mental shift when a driver goes electric, and it's a different way of thinking, and in Blake's case it made refilling less time consuming than when he had a petrol, because he was able to plug in and go shopping, or he was able to plug in and go for dinner, or go to the cinema, or whatever it may be. You're not standing there filling it full of fuel. So Colin, you are an EV driver for a number of years now. People might be from the outside looking in and being, as you said, being scared or wary of the whole thing, but there is that mental shift, isn't there?
Yeah, there is. And I had an interesting conversation with one of our customers actually, who has some guys in the UK, and he was saying, he wanted to go EV. This is a thing we hear a lot. I want to go EV, but I'm not quite sure. So I think I'll go hybrid. I'll go halfway. I go the plug-in hybrid. So he bought his 3 reps in the UK, beautiful BMW 530e plug-in hybrids. A beautiful motor car. And he said that these will be the right cars for the boys, and you keep them happy, and we're going the right way. And his staff cursed him, because what people forget is a plug-in hybrid, it has a battery, but you give over the space of half the fuel tank to the battery. So what these guys got out of were, 1,000-kilometer, 900-kilometer mile munching BMW 520 diesels, and he put them in 520 plug-in hybrids, but they had to stop twice as often to fill them with diesel, because they're never going to charge. The nature of these guys is they just want to go. So they're filling them with diesel, but they're having to stop twice as often. So he's thinking, I should have maybe got them the Tesla Model 3s, because with the supercharger network in the UK, the range of a Model 3 long range, they could have had. He made a mistake and he admitted. But again, you need to be aware of these things. But yeah, the mental shift is, once you start driving and the penny drops, you just think in a different way, because once you know you're going to get home and you're going to be able to charge at home, you don't have anything to worry about.
That's a great point. if you're thinking about changing to an EV, whether for personal or commercial purposes, reach out to somebody that has an EV already, or look at the owner groups, the Irish EV Owners Association Facebook group, become a member and ask the question or talk to somebody. I know I put a couple of people onto Colin's way because he's done it commercially. Anybody that asks me, we sit down and we go through what their daily routes are, what they need size-wise, etc., etc. So definitely don't pull the trigger until you talk to one, two, or more people. Your point about that person in the UK potentially that buying his reps the Teslas. The next question was about Teslas and the superchargers. Are they DC?
Yes, so the superchargers are DC. So once something is over the 22 kilowatt speed we saw, once it goes above that, it's direct current DC. And this is another question people say, well, okay, well, I'm going to get myself a DC charger. Why won't I get a DC charger in my business? Well, there's a big investment for DC. First of all, you have to have the right feed. Now, I'm not an electrical engineer, and I admit I don't fully understand, but I do understand the money. I do understand the pounds and pence. So if I don't have a three-phase supply in my premises, which most domestic houses in Ireland wouldn't. Now, we have some people who might have a farm, and let's say they would have a DC supply or three-phase supply for farm machinery and maybe a milking parlour or whatever. I have a friend who's a farmer and he has a three-phase supply. He could get himself a DC charger, maybe a 25 kilowatt DC charger, but you could be talking 40, 50 grand for the charger. Now, who's going to pay that much? You're not going to get the use out of it. It's not justifiable unless you're a business, for example, like Unpust, perhaps. Unpust now have got in the partners, you've test driven those, Derek, I know in your reviews, the new Peugeot partner electrics and the Berlingo electrics and so on, little vans like that they want to be able to give a quick juice up to in a rapid way. They might justify having a rapid charge. Most domestic or small businesses wouldn't,
Because they'll charge overnight when they're sleeping.
They charge overnight. Yeah, if a vehicle, not just a car, but even the vans that you reviewed as well, the Maxes from Harris's, if a business knows that their vehicles are coming back to base overnight and they're going to be there overnight, well, there's no reason why they can be charging overnight. Nice and slow and gentle, good for the battery, easy on the grid. And the morning they come into a van that's ready to go and do, a couple of 100 kilometers of deliveries or local runarounds with no emissions whatsoever from the tailpipe. And it's brilliant. And now with everyone, we saw a flyer come into our office last week from a crowd who were going around offering to put in solar PV in your business and they'll pay the upfront costs. Once you've got people with roof real estate and big warehouse real estate that they can put PVs on, then this becomes a big game changer. And, then thinking really changes because you could be running all your vehicles for nothing.
Yeah, and selling back to the grid if you've got excess.
And selling back to the grid. Yeah.
Next question is from Elevate. Hi, I always assumed partial charging a rechargeable battery reduced or degraded the capacity of the battery over time. So the battery holds less energy the older it gets. Is this true for EV batteries? Good question.
That is a good question. And in some cases, this is yet to be proven. But in technically, the answer to that question is yes. But with modern technology in the modern batteries that are in these cars now, it just handles it much better. But yes, there are some good practices. So wherever possible, charge your car slowly and gently. Don't be DC rapid charging all the time. But there are stories of guys driving first generation Nissan Leafs, I think in the Southern Asian continent, India and Malaysia and so on. They've had taxis, one of them with 1 million miles on it or 1 million kilometers or something. And the battery's at something like 70% degradation. So, okay, it doesn't have 100% capacity. It's got 70% capacity. But still plenty for the guy to run around all day and give people taxi rides. Still got a useful life. And just like we buy second-hand cars, you buy second-hand petrol or diesel car. When somebody goes to buy a second-hand car, do they want to put it on a dyno to check has it got the same brake horsepower they left the factory? No. Does it go? Does it go from A to B? Does it do the job for me? And second-hand EVs are exactly the same.
I think with the second-hand battery as well, you can run diagnostics so you can see what the capacity of the battery is. So you'll know what level. So with Nissan Leafs, it'll actually show you on the dash how many bars of the battery are still there. And to answer Elevate's point, like you're saying, Colin, it is the manufacturer will recommend the best practices for the car. So some manufacturers will say, don't regularly top up to 100, only top up between that 20 and 80%. So depending on the manufacturers, and they know because they know what is the component or the makeup of the battery. So some Teslas up to 80%, other Teslas that are coming out of China, different battery composition, they're saying, oh, you can charge it all the way up to 100%. So depending on the car, but again, ask around, ask somebody that's already a driver. Next comment is in from Jim's Shed, the YouTube channel. Great to see you again, Derek. Love this week's review on the Merc. I'm a petrol head, however, intrigued about EVs as my daily driver is a Tiguan R-Line. Fine car. However, my next daily driver, and Colin knows all about it, is the Volkswagen ID4.
Yep. There she is.
Don't look at the reg. Don't take that reg.
So, yeah, no, the ID4 is a great car, and again, you know, it's all down to taste. You've the ID4, you've got the Skoda Enyaq. It's on the same platform. You know, it's got the VW build quality. It's got, you know, if you're a VW man, it's definitely the car for you. The GTX is coming out next year, the 4-wheel drive hot one. We've got a First, which is just your simple entry level, but a beautiful car. And all the electric cars, even though this one is entry level, you know, you've got your cruise control, dynamic. You've got you know, it's automatic. It's beautiful. My wife loves it. That's all important. Is Mammy happy? Yes. So that's it. Does the job.
Next, good stuff. And Jim's got a great channel there. Looking forward to seeing him getting into the ID4. Although he won't be able to do much underneath the bonnet. He'll have to leave it to the experts at the dealership. Not that you'll need to do much of it. IFD Hand, please share the link to the future EV meetups. Great job, folks. So I suppose, Colin, you post them, whenever you're running your ones, you'll post them on all the EV groups, the Dublin one or the Irish EV owners.
Yeah, I normally share them with the major EV groups. So the Irish EV owners, Dublin EV owners, some of the regional EV owner groups, the Tesla owners groups. Just try and let everyone share it themselves. And again, like I said at the beginning of this, I do it myself, and it's not affiliated with any group. It's not on behalf of any group. It's just mine, just so that I don't get anyone else in trouble. Or if I say open my mouth and change feet, it's me that'll get the backside kick and nobody else. So that's it. But look, we've not had any fighting at them yet, so that's good as well, you know.
Another question in from IFD.
Paul Kelly would have a go there. You know.
Paul Kelly says the same thing about you. Best app or supplier for EV DC charging rates. Now we're getting into the weeds of it. Any thoughts? So the best app or supplier for EV DC charging rates. Yeah,
that's a hard one, and that is something that's, in fairness, there's a lot of criticism on that because it is very confusing. Like, my brother came with me today to the event, you know, and what he said was, as a nice driver who does want to go EV because he loves driving my Tesla, who wouldn't? But, you know, what he said was, Colin, there seemed to be an awful lot of faff there today. And he was right, there was. You know, you're pulling up, you're getting out a card, you're getting out an app, you're trying to start to charge, and doesn't it? He says, when I go to a petrol station, I just go and pull a trigger and away you go. And it's true. You get that with Tesla. And I'll admit that, as I said, we're spoiled. The Tesla superchargers, that's when you go, this is how it should be. You just pull up with your car, you plug the thing in, and it just does it by magic, and it works. There's no faffing. I suppose Tesla have the advantage of one car and they're in control of them. Exactly. Whereas ESB or EasyGo, and EasyGo probably would be the app I'd recommend everybody because it works. Yes. About 1,200 chargers nationwide. I know you showed the map there, and that's their DC locations, but if you have the EasyGo fob and the app, it'll cover ESB, Ionity, Circle K, and their own. So if you were to have only one, and I suppose you'd back me up on that, Colin, EasyGo with the one. No, I was coming to that because, and also the EasyGo app. I think the question was, what's the best app? Or no, it was for rates. Yeah. In fairness, the EasyGo app, I think, is the best app out there, certainly here in Ireland, for seeing what's going on, where are their chargers, and can I charge with the app? And then while you're having your copy, you can see the app, the charging status on the app, as in, you know, how much you've got, what percentage are you finished, are you done, or, you know, it's brilliant. And the EasyGo app is very good. And they do, you know, they can bill you through those as well. But rates can vary with different providers. And what I say is, I like to use EasyGo. I pay a little bit more for EasyGo, especially if I use Ionity, but that's because I very seldom use Ionity. But when I need it, I'll pay for it, and I just want to get it and go. So I take out my EasyGo app, boom, my fob, hit the Ionity charger, and I get that bit of charge. And okay, all right, I may have paid a few pence more for it, but that's okay. I want that for the convenience and the less faff. That's what I would say. Less faff.
And today, I know there was faff because it was software and it was a free vent now as well. So nobody had to pay for free electricity today. So as much as people were giving out, and we're getting to that sense where, and I know EasyGo are talking about tap to pay as well. So you just rock up with your card or your phone, and you can, and if you want a cheaper rate, you can join potentially. So it's all down to yourself and how convenient you want it.
Yeah, like in fairness to ESB today, it's a new unit they've never used before. They've obviously been testing it, but now it's testing in the wild. So they've told us, look, lads, we've put these chargers in there, tried the different cars and give it a go. We're not going to bill you for it. We told them we were having the event today. They said, great, try as many different cars as you can. So I'm sure we've fed back to them, and we will be feeding back to them tomorrow very useful information that'll improve for everyone then, hopefully. So the next time they do open another one of these sites, they should be a little bit further. Yeah, they should be a bit further down the road.
Next, we have Michael O'Sullivan leaving a comment. Updated eCar app available in the App Store, just updated. And I know that EasyGo are updating their app as well in the next week or two. So there's lots of changing. And like that, like you're saying, they're going towards that Tesla model where you just rock up, plug in, and it works. And the variety of cars. But it's great to hear that there's updated apps coming out there. Thank you, Michael. Peter Bracken commenting, well done, guys. Excellent. Thank you, Peter. Recently did a 32 county challenge raising funds, singing a song in the 32 counties, driving an ID4, if I remember correctly. And yeah, good question coming in from Paul Lynch through LinkedIn. How far away is wireless charging? I saw a Leaf charger on the street yesterday and the cable stretched over the charging unit looked very clunky. Wireless is interesting, Colin.
It is, yeah. I remember seeing the episode that Bobby, or listening to the Bobby Llewellyn podcast, Fully Charged podcast about it. And, a bit like, in my industry, in the IT industry, I remember when wireless broadband started coming out and line of sight, and people were saying, well, we can do so much more now without having to worry about wires. Sky was kind of saying the same thing. So they're certainly working on it. How far away is it for us in real terms? I'm not sure. I'm sure it'll come into the commercial space first. The buses, the trucks, the vans, going back to on post, people like that, they'll want to run up their transporter van or their bigger trucks and just let them pull over a pad and charge up. So, it's definitely coming. So watch this space.
I know I did a piece with Jess Kelly a couple of months ago on wireless and charging, and I know BMW had a pad you could buy, so it would just sit on your car parking space on your driveway, and it would have a pad underneath the car. I know that in Coventry in the United Kingdom, taxis and the taxi rank, when they were waiting to pick up a passenger, the wireless charge. So Ytricity, I think, is the name of the company that is wireless charging. So there's lots of innovation in the space, and you said, Colin, there's certain use cases that it would be good for. And it's nearly as efficient as plugging in. I think it's about 95% as efficient as plugging in the cables, which was great. I didn't realize it was as good as that.
Right, very good.
We're coming up to the hour. Any other comments or questions, stick them in the chat there, wherever you're watching it, whether it's on YouTube or LinkedIn. I'd like to thank Colin for joining us tonight and that amazing presentation. And it's now going to be on the channel. So if you're ever interested, or somebody that's thinking about buying an electric vehicle, you can direct them towards this episode. So that, and I don't think it's going to date too bad, Colin, because all the stuff that's in there is fairly up to date, unless we have a supercharger that's coming down the line that we don't know about in the next couple of months.
Yeah, no, apologies to EasyGo. I only realised when I was looking at it tonight, I thought I went through everything yesterday, but I missed that slide. And, their stuff now is a little bit more up to date. But well done to the lads. They're doing their best, and they're rolling out those DC chargers of their own as well across the country. So keep it up, lads.
Absolutely, and you said supporting our own. And at the start of this episode, I was saying that it was great to get the ESB in Junction 14, that multi-hub unit, but sure, I'd forgotten about. Why do I keep forgetting about? I don't know. Ionity. They have multiple multi-hub units around the country, and I think the reason I'm forgetting about it, Colin, is I go west, Mayo, and I don't pass them. And
so the only point in the cherry you'd possibly have for Ionity is at Lone, and
it's really too far south for me.
Too far south for you, yeah. Yeah, so
so
there
they
you
need
go.
to put in a couple more. So apologies,
Yeah.
Ionity, for missing you, but you just have to put one along my route.
You have to put one up there, yeah, Donegal, Mayo, absolutely.
And as much as we're EV Review Ireland and we're talking about it, we send our best wishes to our friends and up in Northern Ireland. They have a tough time at the moment where they're looking to get governmental funding and they're looking to get people to support the network up there. It's a tough ask. And as much as we haven't got the perfect network down here in the south, Colin, we both know it's tough up in the north at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. So maybe hopefully now with Assembly, once Assembly business and Assembly, they get the cabinet and the government and whatever sorted out up there. Once there's that bit of stability comes back, I'm sure things will accelerate up there.
Fingers crossed. Thanks again, Colin. I'll put your details in the description once I get it tidied up after tonight. It goes live. It'll be live on the channel in a couple of minutes. But I really do appreciate your time, and we're looking to have you on again in the future to talk about, because you turned your whole fleet commercial. So we might bring you back on for another interview just to talk about how you're transitioning all the way over to electric vehicles. So I really do appreciate your time.
Get a new electric bike next week, electric motorbike for one of the lads. Yeah.
So no, we're talking. So remember, my name is Derek Riley, and if you think an EV is for you, leave it to me and I'll review. Thanks for watching, everybody. Thanks, Colin.
See you, everybody. Night.